Dear students, your exams are about to begin and some of you have this in your syllabus. So this is a much awaited video on request, workbook solutions, reference to the context, questions and answers from the Homecoming written by Rabindranath Tagore. This is going to be a one-shot video. In today's session, I'm going to discuss 40 important reference to the context, questions and answers from your workbook. Do check the pinned comment section for the easy explanation video as well. And students, please like, share and comment. If you don't do so, then I will not feel motivated. Come on, let's begin now. Extract 1. The extract is there on the screen. And question number 1. Who was Makhan? Makhan was a younger brother of Phatik Chakravarti. Where was he? He was sitting on a heavy log lying on the mud flat of the river. So Makhan, the younger brother of Phatik Chakravarti, was sitting down on a heavy log lying on the mud flat of the river. What is meant by sauntered up? The expression sauntered up means walked slowly and silently, that is strolled. Dear students, also learn the word meanings from any workbook or from any good paraphrase book. So in this question, there were 3 subparts. Change paragraphs for each subpart. 3 subparts and 3 paragraphs. Write brief answers, and if you start writing like this, you will get good marks. What was the fun that was about to begin? The log was waiting to be shaped into a mast for a boat. Phatik decided that they, his friends and he, should work all together to shift the log by main force from its place and roll it away. The owner of the log would be angry and surprised, and they would all enjoy themselves. This was the fun. जो log of wood था, इन लड़कों ने प्लान किया था. इनफैक्ट फटिक ने ये डिसाइड किया था सब लड़के मिलके उस लॉक को लुढ़का देंगे और जो मालिक है वो इन लड़कों पर गुस्सा करेंगे, क्रोधित होंगे और इसे देख के ये लड़के बहुत खुश हो जाएंगे और मालिक का मजाक बनाएंगे. And in this way they will have great fun. This was the fun that was about to begin. And what did Makhan do to spoil the fun? Phatik had decided to follow this plan, and there was his younger brother Makhan who had decided to spoil the fun. And what did he do? In order to spoil the fun, Makhan sat down firmly on the log in front of Phatik and his friends without a word. So, वो बिना कुछ कहे आके उस log पे बैठ गया. What did one of the boys do and why? How did Makhan react to it? 2 subparts, therefore 2 paragraphs. One of the boys pushed Makhan rather timidly and told him to get up. Pushed or timidly, both these key words must be there in your answer. If you write all the key words and expressions in your answers, you will get good marks. He was puzzled to see Makhan's strange behavior. The boys were unable to begin their game of rolling the log, so he wanted to remove Makhan from there. अगर Makhan ना हटेगा तो क्या होगा? अगर Makhan नहीं हटेगा वहां से ये बच्चे, ये लड़के अपना जो खेल है वो शुरू नहीं कर पाएंगे. इसीलिए एक लड़के ने क्या किया? Makhan को जस्ट जाके धीरे से टिमिडली पुश कर दिया. How did Makhan react to it? So here, before going on to the next subpart, just have a look. There are 2 questions here. What did one of the boys do? He pushed Makhan timidly, and why? Because of this reason. After this, how did Makhan react to it? Makhan's reaction क्या था? Makhan was least bothered. He remained quite unconcerned. This expression is there in your text. Therefore, you must mention this compulsory. Appearing like a young philosopher meditating on the futility of games. Makhan कुछ नहीं कहा और वहां से नहीं हटा, वो डटा रहा. Why was Phatik furious? Phatik was furious because Makhan was spoiling their game when he sat on the log. Number one reason, spoiling their game, and number two reason, refused to budge from there. वहां से वो हट के उठ नहीं जा रहा था, इसीलिए फटिक इतना गुस्सा, वो इतना क्रोधित हो गया. The latter, that is Makhan, was in a way challenging. Number three, the former by refusing to listen to the boys. Phatik was the ringleader. Phatik Sardar tha among the boys, and Makhan hardly paid heed to his commands. He was disobedient. He only moved to a more comfortable position, and Phatik got more furious because of this challenging, stubborn attitude of Makhan. And what did he ask his band of companions to do after this extract? Phatik gave the command to roll the log and Makhan over together. दोनों को लुढ़का दो, लॉग को भी और माखन को भी लुढ़का दो लॉग के समेत. Did Phatik hit Makhan? No, Phatik did not hit Makhan. At this juncture, he did not hit Makhan. Why? Phatik was aware of the fact that his mother would be angry with him if he hit his younger brother. So although he was furious, he controlled himself. अभी तक उसने कंट्रोल किया अपने आप को. His courage failed him at the crisis. And which two characteristic traits of Phatik are evident here, revealed here? Two characteristic traits क्या है? Phatik is meek at times like any other boy of his age. Number one, meek. And he is scared of his mother. Number two. So these are the two characteristic traits of Phatik. At this juncture, in this extract, meekness, and he is frightened of his mother. He was sure that if he hit Makhan, mother would surely scold him very much. Now, moving on to extract number 2, very quickly read the extract from the screen. And now, what was the critical juncture? Phatik's mother angrily shouted at Phatik and called him little villain. Being pushed by him, she asked Phatik if he would hit his own mother. This intense and unpleasant situation was the critical juncture. अपने माँ के साथ फटिक का थोड़ा सा लड़ाई हो गया. फटिक ने माँ को पुश कर दिया. एंड इसीलिए माँ ने भी गुस्से में फटिक से पूछा, क्या अब तुम अपने माँ को ही ढकेल दोगे, पुश करोगे, हाथ उठाओगे? So this was the critical juncture. And what had happened before the critical juncture? Makhan complained against Phatik to his mother and insisted on being hit by Phatik. Phatik ne mujhe mara. Phatik's patience was already exhausted and he could not bear this injustice. Makhan was lying. He rushed at Makhan and hammered him with blows. Ab Phatik ne Makhan को मारना शुरू कर दिया. His mother took Makhan's side in a moment and pulled Phatik away, beating him with her hands. Phatik भी माँ ने भी Phatik को मारने लगी. Phatik pushed his mother, and in this situation, Phatik pushed his mother. So this had happened just before the critical juncture. Who was the grey-haired stranger? The grey-haired stranger was Phatik Chakravarti's maternal uncle, Mama, named Vishambhar. And why did he come there? He had gone away soon after Phatik's mother had married. And he had started business in Bombay. He had migrated to Bombay. She had lost her husband while he was in Bombay. He returned to Calcutta and had at once made inquiries about his sister. He had thus hastened to see her as soon as he found out where she was. Question number 3. Now students, read question number 3 very quickly. Why did Phatik feel ashamed on seeing the stranger? The stranger had previously sought Phatik's help to know where the Chakravartis lived. On the occasion, Phatik behaved with him quite rudely and did not help him properly. Phatik ने इस stranger को address नहीं बताया था. उपेक्षा के साथ Phatik ने इस stranger को क्या कहा था? जाके खुद ढूंढ लो. कहाँ Chakravartis रहते हैं. And therefore, when he saw the same stranger, he was ashamed. And that too at such a critical juncture when he was having a fight with his mother. The stranger somehow managed to arrive at his sister's residence at the critical juncture when Phatik's mother angrily asked him if he would hit his own mother. Thus, Phatik felt ashamed on seeing the stranger. How did Phatik react to the stranger's offer when he reached home? Bishambar kindly offered to take Phatik off his sister's hands and educate him with his own children in Calcutta. So this was the offer. When he asked Phatik if he would like to go to Calcutta with him, his joy knew no bounds. And he said, "Oh yes, uncle," in a way that made it clear that he meant it. He was eager to go to Calcutta. And which characteristic trait of Phatik is revealed by his reaction? Being a village boy, Phatik finds his uncle's offer quite tempting. Like any other adolescent boy of his age, he is attracted to the opportunity to go on an unknown path. Here, migrate to Calcutta towards an uncertain future in the quest for his identity and independence. जो adolescent बच्चे होते हैं, वो हमेशा they try to assert their identity and also feel free and independent. Similarly, Phatik also was tempted when his uncle offered to take him to Calcutta. Calcutta एक बड़ा शहर है. Calcutta एक possibilities, immense, innumerable possibilities वाला एक unknown, unexplored जगह है. तो ऐसी जगह जाने के लिए Phatik बहुत उत्सुक हो गया. The situation at home also was unfavorable. Mother always supported Makhan, and so he quickly agreed to go to Calcutta without thinking about the consequences. Now, dear students, the length of the answers depend on many factors. My handwriting is not as your handwriting, so the space allotted in the workbook is not always sufficient for writing these answers. You may need a little more space than what is allotted in the workbook. Please keep this in mind. State any two traits of the stranger's personality. Character sketch. Bishambar is a loving brother, kind and compassionate man who is concerned about the welfare of his nephews. He is concerned about their upbringing and tries to help his sister by offering to take up Phatik's responsibility. This is number one. Loving brother, kind, compassionate. And then number two, towards the end of the story, he understands Phatik's frustration and is teary-eyed to see him in a state of delirium. Like a father, he sits by him through the night, calls for a doctor and also calls Phatik's mother to visit Calcutta. These are the two traits. Extract number 3. Who was he referred to in the first line? Now, इस question में he capital letter में है. First line में जो he है वो बिशंबर है. मगर दूसरे question में question ऐसे frame किया गया है, इस him का मतलब Phatik है. So just make a minor change in the question. What was Phatik's mother's complaint about him? That is Phatik. So this he in the first line is different from this him. तो दोनों different है. पहला वाला है Bishambar, the maternal uncle of Phatik and Makhan, who had started business in Bombay, was referred to as he in the first line of the extract. तो यहाँ पे workbook में एक छोटा सा printing mistake हो गया है. What was Phatik's mother's complaint about him? This is not about his, this is not about her brother, but this is about Phatik. Phatik's mother complained that Phatik was a perpetual nuisance, a troublemaker. He was lazy, disobedient and wild. Chota sa answer, brief sa answer, but including all the important words and expressions. How, according to Phatik's mother, was Makhan different in his behavior from his brother? Makhan, unlike Phatik, was as good as gold, number 1, as quiet as lamb, number 2, and very fond of reading, number 3. Specific answer, to the point answer. What did Vishwambar offer to do? Vishwambar offered to take Phatik off his sister's hands and educate him with his own children in Calcutta. Why? He was kind and compassionate man who was concerned about the welfare of his nephews. पहले extract में हमने ये discuss किया था. He was aware of the struggles, aware of the struggles of his widowed sister in the upbringing of her sons. He wanted to help her by taking upon himself the responsibility of Phatik. Use these words in your answers. How welcome was Phatik in Vishwambar's family? What was its effect on Phatik? Phatik was an unwanted person, an unwelcome guest in Vishwambar's family. You may use unwelcome guest also. It's there in the text. Unwelcome guest भी लिखा जा सकता है. Unwelcome guest. And his aunt did not welcome him warmly. She was so displeased with this unnecessary addition to her family that she treated him with coldness and lovelessness. Even his cousins did not accept him, so he was not at all welcomed properly. And what was its effect? Phatik was unhappy. Number 1, suffered from neglect, apathy, isolation. Number 2. Number 3, he was rejected, and this filled him with anguish. Teenage angst. To live in a strange house with strange people was little short of torture. The next point, which made him feel homesick. All these are effects. And suffocated. Dam ghudne laga. He yearned to go into the open country and fill his lungs and breathe freely. So, write your answers in this way. Understood? Go through this answer quickly. And now I will move on to the next question. We'll have to do this really quick because this is a one-shot session. How is the theme of abandonment hinted upon in the story? Phatik's mother was prejudiced against Phatik, and when she agreed to send him to Calcutta with his uncle, she perhaps abandoned him to relieve herself of the responsibility of Phatik. In fact, it was an immense relief to her to get rid of him. In this way, she abandoned him, shirked her responsibility towards Phatik. Moreover, his aunt and his cousins abandoned him, rejected him in the household and at school, respectively. The aunt slighted him, and his cousins did not help him at school. They began to jeer and insult him more than the other boys. Extract number 4 now. Why did Phatik's mother agree to send Phatik to Calcutta? Phatik, according to his mother, was a perpetual nuisance, lazy, disobedient and wild. She was in daily fear that he would perhaps harm Makhan someday. Thus, she agreed to send Phatik to Calcutta. Reason number 1. This would mean that no love was lost between the two brothers. She was a poor widow. Number 3. She would not have to bear the responsibility of Phatik's upbringing single-handedly. Number 4. Finally, she was prejudiced against the boy. Number 5. In this way, one reason after the other. 5 reasons in total. Why was Phatik excited to go to Calcutta? Explain that he meant it. Being a village boy, Phatik was eager to go to a big city like Calcutta. Like any other adolescent boy of his age, Phatik was attracted to the unknown big world, city life, where he could assert his identity and independence. So you must understand the concept of adolescence. I have discussed this in detail in the easy explanation video. He was also annoyed with Makhan, and his mother was also not impartial, and she often took Makhan's side. और एक adolescent boy of 14 को ये हमेशा अच्छा नहीं लगता था. These factors made Phatik excited to go to Calcutta. And the expression that he meant it means that Phatik genuinely and truly wanted to go to Calcutta, suggesting his extreme eagerness to get away. Do you think Phatik's mother's decision to send Phatik to Calcutta was correct? Why? So, your interpretation-based, opinion-based question. No, Fatik's mother, according to me, this is according to me, my interpretation. No, Fatik's mother's decision was perhaps. Use words like this whenever you're writing opinion-based answers, interpretation-based answers. Perhaps not correct. And why? She was prejudiced against the boy and readily agreed to send Fatik to Calcutta. She was immensely relieved to get rid of Fatik and wanted to avoid the responsibility. She should have told Vishwambar to consult his wife at least once. उसने ये बुद्धि नहीं दिया अपने भाई को. हाँ जाओ Fatik को ले जाओ. And she was relieved to do so. Had she done so, Fatik perhaps would not have been an unwelcome guest at Vishwambar's household, leading to his tragic and premature death. अगर माँ ने एक impulsive decision नहीं लिया हुआ होता, तो आज फटिक हमारे पास जिंदा होता. Perhaps he would not have died. But you can also write that his mother was right, perhaps because she was a widow, a poor mother, and she could not properly raise Fatik and look after his education of both the boys. Therefore, the decision was correct. ये भी तुम लिख सकते हो, depending on how you justify your answer. But according to me, the decision was not correct. At least once she should have consulted Vishwambar's wife or told Vishwambar to have a meeting with his wife. After seeing Fatik's eagerness to go to Calcutta, how did his mother feel? Which characteristic trait of his mother is revealed through his feelings about Fatik at this moment? After seeing Fatik's eagerness to go to Calcutta, his mother was somewhat distressed. Text में ही है. This shows that perhaps being a widow who has to single-handedly manage two boys was weighing on her mind, and she could not differentiate between right and wrong. She was a mother after all, but was prejudiced against him. So this is the characteristic trait of his mother. How were Fatik's hopes dashed on reaching his uncle's house in Calcutta? Calcutta life, city life कैसा था? एकदम बुरा. When Fatik reached Calcutta with his uncle, met his aunt, he realized that he was an unwelcome guest in her house. Aunt was not pleased with this unnecessary addition to her family. In this way, his hopes dashed on reaching his uncle's house in Calcutta. To live with strange people in a strange house was a little short of torture. Instead of receiving love, he was despised, hated and slighted by the aunt and jeered and insulted by his cousins. At school, he was the most backward boy and rejected by his teacher. So, कुछ ठीक नहीं था city life में, Calcutta में, and therefore his hopes dashed. As an adolescent, he had hoped that life would have been very fun. Life would have been happy and full of fun in Kolkata, but that did not happen. Extract 5. Who is referred to as she in the extract? Vishwambar's wife. The maternal aunt, mommy of Fatik, is referred to as she in the extract. And what was the unnecessary addition to her family? Vishwambar brought his adolescent nephew, a boy of 14, from his village to Calcutta to educate him with his sons. Thus, the unnecessary addition to her family was Fatik Chakravarti. Why was Fatik's wife annoyed to see Fatik? Fatik's aunt found her own 3 sons quite enough to manage without taking on anyone else. So to bring a village boy of 14 into their midst was terribly upsetting. दोनों reasons. अच्छा, 3 reason. अपने 3 बच्चे, फिर Fatik एक village boy, and that too a boy of 14, an adolescent boy. She thought that her husband had committed an indiscretion. Thus, she was annoyed to see Fatik all of a sudden. Why was sending a village lad of 14 to unknown people in an unknown place terribly upsetting? Which theme is involved here in mother's decision? For a boy of 14, his own home is the only paradise. Because adolescence is a time of physical changes, social changes, emotional changes. So you need the comfort and love of your own household. But here, sending a village lad of 14 to unknown people in an unknown place was terribly upsetting, as it was little short of torture. एक tortured life था फटीक का. Adolescence is an impressionable phase of life characterized by major emotional changes. To expose such a boy to certain unknown, uncertain paths only makes him feel abandoned, lost and sad. Lonely as well, and makes him vulnerable. Vulnerable का क्या मतलब है? Weak. The theme of abandonment is involved in Phatik's mother's decision. How correct was Vishwambar in taking his nephew Phatik to Calcutta? Vishwambar wanted to share the burden. Just share करना चाहता था of his widowed sister who was raising her son single-handedly. Here he was correct in taking his nephew Phatik to Calcutta. But he should have consulted his wife before making such a commitment. It was an impulsive act of indiscretion leading to tension in his own household and also the premature death of Phatik. What were the consequences of taking him to Calcutta? The most important consequence of taking him to Calcutta was the tragic and sad fate of Phatik. He died. His uncle placed him in a hostile environment in his own household. He was not aware of his miserable condition. हम बीच में अंकल को नहीं देखते. अंकल शेयर नहीं करते हैं फटिक्स फीलिंग्स क्या है, जानना नहीं चाहते थे. जब मामी और बच्चे टॉर्चर कर रहे थे, स्कूल में फटिक को मारा जा रहा था, स्कूल में वो बैकवर्ड स्टूडेंट बन गया था, तब मामा ने कुछ नहीं किया. He was despised and slighted by his aunt. His classmates rejected him, his teacher bet him, and his cousins insulted him more than the other boys. Phatik was filled with anguish, teenage angst. Summoned up all his courage, Phatik Chakravarti summoned up all his courage. Why did he want to go home? Phatik was unable to adapt to the city life in Calcutta. Being abandoned, rejected, neglected, he longed to return to his home in the village. When other boys were out at play, he stood wistfully by the window and gazed at the roofs of the distant houses. His heart would ache with longing. Longing word must be there if he saw children playing on the open terrace, and he felt homesick. Unable to adapt, longing, homesick. How did he feel when his uncle told him to wait till the holidays came? Phatik was sad and disappointed. When his uncle told him to wait till the holidays came, he was heartbroken. There was long time still to wait and he was impatient. Why did his uncle not take him to his home immediately? The holidays would not come till November, and so his uncle could not take Phatik home immediately. He would lag behind in his studies if he missed school. Which characteristic traits of his uncle are revealed here? Phatik's uncle was concerned about the education of his nephew. He was considerate and kind, but at the same time he was not aware of the emotional instability of the young adolescent Phatik. He should have taken care of Phatik more. He did not seem too worried about why Phatik was feeling homesick. And did he wait for the holidays to go home? Give reasons to support your answer. No, he did not wait. One morning Phatik was nowhere to be seen. He had gone. All searches in the neighborhood proved futile. At last the police traced the missing boy, and two constables brought out Phatik in their arms, sick and weak, and placed him in Vishwambar's custody. During this time, Phatik confessed that he was just going home, but the police dragged him back again. Which theme is highlighted in the extract? The theme of the boy's longing to return to the wide open spaces of his village home is highlighted in the extract. His homesickness led to this longing. Extract 7. Why was it difficult for Phatik to prepare the lesson even with the help of books? Phatik was a backward student and lagged behind at school. He was unable to fit into the urban education at school and could not cope up. He was not fond of reading, his mother had told. Unlike Makhan, who was fond of reading. Thus, it was difficult for Phatik to prepare his lesson even with the help of books. And what was Phatik's image in the school? Phatik's image in the school was that of a boy who was the dullest in the whole school. Whole school mein dull tha wo. He gaped and remained silent when the teacher asked him a question, and like an overladen ass suffered the teacher's punishment day after day. And did his teacher treat him? Teacher treat him according to the perception formed because of the image? Give a reason. Day after day, the teacher would cane him mercilessly. Thus, his teacher treated him badly according to the perception formed because of the image. Why were Phatik's cousins ashamed to own him? Even with the help of books, Phatik was unable to prepare his lessons. One day he lost his lesson book. Then it was impossible to learn. The teacher would punish him every day, and his condition became so abjectly miserable that even his cousins were ashamed to own him. What was their fear in owning him? They were afraid that the other boys would make fun of them if they supported Phatik. तुम्हारा भाई कितना बुद्धू है, देखो. And they would perhaps be bullied for being with such a dull boy coming from a village. Why did Phatik go to his aunt for helping him to get a new lesson book? His poor performance in class and continuous scoldings and punishment of his teacher made Phatik go to his aunt for helping him to get a new lesson book. He had to replace his missing book immediately. And how did his aunt react to it? Aunt pursed his lips in contempt. वो गुस्से में थी and chided him by calling Phatik great clumsy country lout. She asked him how would she afford with all her family to buy him new books 5 times a month. बोलो कैसे मैं ये कर पाऊंगी? 5 बार महीने में बुक मैं कैसे लाके दूं? How was Phatik's aunt similar to his mother in her treatment of Phatik? Give reasons. Both aunt and mother were apathetic. Number 1, towards Phatik. Apathetic towards a young adolescent boy of 14. His mother was prejudiced against the boy, and aunt also disliked him. Similarity. He was neglected by both the women, and none took the responsibility of understanding the needs and emotions of the growing up boy. They abandoned him. Similar. ऐसे ये दोनों औरतें similar थी. Now extract number 8. The last extract, very quickly. How did Phatik become ill? On his way back from school, Phatik had a bad headache with a fit of shivering. He felt he was going to have an attack of malarial fever. His weakness aggravated to serious illness when he got drenched wet in the continuous, incessant, overnight rain. He was ill with fever and his lips were trembling. How did Phatik become ill? And why did he want to go home so desperately? He was desperate to go home because he was homesick. He was impatient and the city life was not suitable for him. He wanted to reach the open space of his village badly. There was a long time still to wait for the holidays to come. Moreover, his one great fear was that he would be a nuisance to his aunt. जब वो बीमार पड़ने वाला था, उसे ये पता चल गया था वो बीमार पड़ेगा, and therefore he was impatient and did not want to bother the aunt anymore. What is meant by delirious? The word delirious means in an acutely disturbed state of mind, characterized by restlessness, illusions and incoherence, that is affected by delirium. Learn this. Phatik was so sick that he was delirious. He was suffering from high fever, severe physical weakness, acute emotional trauma. He was hallucinating and speaking incoherently, meaningless. बड़बड़ा रहा था. His hands were burning and he was not in his senses. Why did he ask his uncle whether the holidays have come? Did he get the holidays? He asked his uncle whether the holidays have come because he was having fits of delusion. He was waiting for school vacation to return home, but metaphorically, symbolically, holidays represent his longing to get away from the harsh and hostile city life, from the harsh reality. Very important. Again, perhaps he realized that he was nearing his death, that is, permanent leaving from this world, or permanent leave taking from this world. And did he get the holidays? Phatik's yearning to escape from Calcutta to his village is fulfilled. Instead of his village home, he goes to his permanent abode, or wo kahan tha, where the soul goes after death. In this way, he got his holidays. Yes, permanently, uska jo hai, chutti ho gaya tha from his earthly existence. How are holidays related to the title? Homecoming के साथ ये holidays शब्द का relationship क्या है? It may be assumed that the lonely, isolated and feverish Phatik set off for the holidays may be death after getting a glimpse of his mother. The title applies to the boy's struggle to find a home where he feels loved. Phatik is on the move throughout the story, the homecoming part now. Just before his impending death, Phatik's mother makes a rare display of affection towards him. This love from his mother represents the idea of home he desires, and he gets it as holidays, that is eternal sleep and departure from his earthly abode. Homecoming, mother के पास एक safe and secure loved environment में वो पहुंच गया, मगर once he gets his holidays, that is permanent leave taking from earth. What feelings do you have for Phatik at this juncture? Phatik's tragic death pierces the heart, very emotional. He pays a heavy price for reaching his home to reunite with his mother. His premature end is tragic, and feelings like sadness and mourning over the departed soul are felt. His helplessness to be accepted and loved is moving. We are moved. If only he were not neglected and rejected by everybody. So this is again an opinion based or interpretation based answer. Dear students, here I come to the end of the workbook solution.